Today we are going to be talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse Always Ready bundle available at armoredrepublic.com. It's a very practical kit, including everything that you need all the way from hydration to first aid to general purpose to magazine holders and to a very comfortable plate carrier. So included is the Testudo Gen 3 plate carrier, and we also have 2 C3 plates that I've included in the bundle. So these plates are multi-curve, multi-hit ceramic, so they can take multiple rounds. I really like these plates because it's going to offer level 4 protection. Thank you guys for watching. Again, you go to armoredrepublic.com, linked below, and you can purchase your Kyle Rittenhouse Always Ready bundle today.
We live in a culture built upon lies, where truth, beauty, and goodness have been ripped from their foundations and left to each man to determine for himself. The Christian is to be a light in the midst of this dark world, and yet for decades, we have sent our children to be educated by those living in the dark. Public education, secular in nature, has finally arrived at its natural end. The utter absence of God from all instruction and the imposition of a state-sanctioned worldly morality. Some labor to reform public education, battling school boards, lawmakers, and the ever-evolving ideologies of modern education. We seek a different way. Not a new way, but rather a tested one, a proven one, an ancient one. One rooted in the Word of God, guided by history, pursuant of truth and excellent in everything. One that for centuries past has developed the greatest minds of every generation. We aspire to resurrect the educational paradigms of old, partnering with Christian parents in raising virtuous, eloquent, and wise young men and women by providing them with a Christ-centered and classical education. While the world around us grasps for something novel to save them, we will stand firm upon the rock, which we know does not fail.
Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. Or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to Business Makers Podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Gabe Wrench, and I'm bringing up some notes and everything here. If you guys haven't tuned into Business Makers before, we're a Christian business show encouraging entrepreneurs to take risks for God's glory and to build your businesses for His kingdom and for your family. We really love highlighting Christian business owners and their work and their efforts. You can go back and look at our catalog, download our app, Fight Laugh Feast app. It's probably the best place to kind of consume our content and go back into the history and the archives of other CEOs and businesses we've interviewed. One of my favorite shows was Armored Republic. David Reese is a fantastic interview. It's actually about how to put together packages to buy other businesses, how to finance the purchase of other businesses. Very, very fun interview. In fact, it's something I need to revisit here. If you're streaming with us live on YouTube, Facebook, make sure you like the show, share the show, especially on our Business Makers YouTube channel. Please subscribe and, of course, hit the bell. Everyone knows the bell thing. A little trick in the social media world. Our pre-Business Makers Conference starts It's October 31st, before our Fight Laugh Feast conference, Prodigal America. So October 31st in Fort Worth, Texas, we'll be having our pre-Business Makers Conference. We have Isaac Botkin from T-Rex speaking. We have Darren Doan from Doan Agency speaking. And we also have Kevin Friedman from the Economic War Room, Blaze Media, Blaze TV speaking at our pre-Business Makers Conference. You guys don't want to miss that as part of our Fight Laugh Feast conference, Prodigal America, in October. So with that said, I get to actually, this is kind of a little cheat show here. This is a business that I'm also a co-owner in, 1689 Cigars, and I interviewing the founder. And when you're a small business, name titles are small, but the CEO and co-owner, Chance Summers. If you guys know anything about Chance and been following what we've been doing with 1689 Cigars, Chance Summers is co-founder of 1689 Cigars. Chance brings a wealth of knowledge and passion to the cigar industry, helping to shape 1689 Cigars into a distinguished name among aficionados. Oh man, we got a lot of fun plans too there. With a keen eye for quality and dedication to excellence, Chance has played an instrumental role in curating unique, luxurious cigar experience for customers alongside his co-owner, me, Gabe Wrench, and Ian. Chance is not only focused on the product, but also creating community and culture around the brand. We also have a Facebook page you can join in everything too. In addition to his role at 1689 Cigars, Chance serves as an elder at Maranatha Baptist Church in Oak Grove, Kentucky, and he's married to Amy Summers, and their first baby's due in about 2 months. Pretty exciting. So Chance, welcome to Business Makers, man.
Hey man, glad to be here.
It's the big time. You made the big time on Business Makers. We already have hundreds streaming on our various channels. So as you guys want to ask questions of me and Chance about what we're doing with 1689 Cigars, feel free to pop in and ask questions. I'll be monitoring what I can in the comment section. So feel free to ask questions as we go along. I'll welcome everybody in right now. Hang on here. Okay, so Chance, this was your wild idea. And what the cigar industry, as we are learning, is a very interesting industry. But what made you want to start 1689 Cigars?
Well, I mean, my friend Al Gomez called me, and we were talking about he was doing a cigar line and it had the Reformers on it. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And then I saw his mission behind the cigars for church plants, for missions, things like that. And then I started asking him, I was like, how does this guy get into that? And he started showing me certain avenues. And I thought, well, this could be a time for me to build my tent with our local church. We're kind of like a revitalization church plant. So I needed to make some money. And I thought, well, I love cigars. I smoke them. I know them. I know the culture around here. And I thought, well, this looks like a great business to jump into. And then we just kind of went through all of this learning process of being on stateside and not knowing Latin America operates on its own time zone. And so like we've learned a lot in the last year and a half.
Yeah. I think what's been fun for me is kind of the international aspect, actually getting to meet with, we just had a call with our friend from Dominican Republic this last week, getting to so our suppliers are from Nicaragua and the DR, but at the same time, I don't know how else to put this, but to me, there's also some dishonesty in the cigar world, and so trying to cut through that has been a challenge with the cigar world. What you've been? I'm a cigar smoker. I've smoked cigars since before I was 18 years old, with the Swisher Sweet thing, but I really enjoy it. I'm not a guy who I don't want to have a cigar every night, kind of guy, but I enjoy it. And as I'm actually learning from you, kind of picking up on the flavors and what am I looking for? It's kind of like when me and my wife went to Walla Walla, which is wine country, very good. So my favorite wines are out of Walla Walla. I think it's actually better than Napa Valley area. And we went, Walla Walla is 2.5 hours away from where we live. We used to drink box wine.
Okay.
And then when we went to Walla Walla, you go from I mean, you probably do 10 wineries in 2 days or something like that, 5 wineries a day or something, or 6 wineries or whatever. When we went to Walla Walla, it would we go to each winery and they tell you, hey, here's the notes you're looking for, here's the taste, here's the flavors, all that stuff. And it changed my cigar, my wine world.
Yeah.
I can't drink red wine out of a box anymore. I can't. I mess myself up. In the same way, like talking to you, learning from you, I'm starting to mess myself up. Like I don't want a non-premium cigar anymore, because I'm starting to learn the notes, the flavors, and all that stuff. When you got when did you start kind of smoking cigars and started kind of figuring out kind of like the flavor, the note, the kind of the higher criticism of cigars?
I mean, I would say that's probably started 5-6 years ago. My wife, I used to play video games professionally. I played Halo professionally, and I was spending way too much time. Yeah, I was spending way too much time on video games. And my wife, she told me, she goes, "Hey, I want you to do something that's a little bit more manly." And she bought me a box of cigars, and the rest was history, And so she bought me this box of cigars. It was Sobre Mesa Brule Blues. Till this day, my favorite cigar out there, probably because I have the sentiment behind it.
Yeah.
But then I started getting into the cigar like world, where you're finding the notes, you're going and you're looking at reviews. Something that I never do is I never look at a review before I smoke a cigar, because a lot of times, like that American that we had down in Florida is an excellent cigar, but I looked at the reviews before I smoked that. So I broke my own rule. We have a Pharisee line, and you could call me a Pharisee here on that one. So I broke my own rule, but I looked it up, and it was like negative review after negative review. And then I smoked it, and I was like, oh, wow, this is an odd taste. It's different. It's something that I've never had before. Even the first like dry draw was good. And then we had just a shorty, the 40 by 40, and it was strong. And so everything that I wanted in a cigar was right there for that 45 minutes we sit on that patio. So, I mean, long history. About 60 years ago, I started picking cigars apart, looking into them. And then I actually started cutting them apart to see what construction looked like. So I figured out what's a medium filler, what's a short filler, what's a long filler. And there's some understanding there. Like a short filler doesn't mean a non-premium cigar, but what it means is it's just more of the scraps of the premium tobacco with a good wrapper around it. And then you have your medium filler, same thing. Medium fill just means there's scraps and there's long filler in there, so we call that a medium filler. And then a long filler would be the whole leaf. The whole long leaf is in there, and then it's wrapped in with a Maduro, Habano, or a Connecticut wrapper. And there's many other wrappers out there, but those are the three main ones that we would know.
Yeah, so for a beginner, someone who's wanting to, we'll get into the business model of what 1689 Cigars is doing, but for a beginner who's starting to smoke cigars, what should they be looking for in a cigar?
Well, so a beginner, the first and foremost, you need to eat before you smoke a cigar. There's a term that we've coined around here. We call it the cigar blues, and you'll get thicker than a dog if you don't eat. I always tell beginners to start out with more of a Connecticut leaf or an infused cigar at the beginning. You're going to learn how to cut. You're going to learn how to light. They're typically infused cigars are a lot shorter smokes because they just burn faster. And then once you move past that, you can move up to the Habanos, you can move up to the Maduros. But darker leaf doesn't necessarily mean a stronger cigar. There's some Connecticut's that will knock your socks off. So you have to just be careful and kind of at the beginning. I have a Churchill in front of me right here. It's a longer cigar. It's a 70 by 72. And so that cigar is going to take a little bit longer. And if you're smoking that, you have a risk of getting sick. So the beginners, don't torch the end for super long. Make sure you start with a straight cut, V cut, or punch cut. I prefer the punch cuts. And then go to a good cigar lounge. Find a tobacconist in your area, somebody that's like an old grandpa that loves tobacco, and just go and ask him, how do I smoke a cigar? And he will give you his entire shift to teach you how to smoke that cigar.
Find that legacy wisdom there.
Yeah. That's where I learned a lot. My local tobacconist.
Right. What okay, so infused cigars. You didn't. What are infused cigars? Just kind of talk straight, for our audience.
Yeah, so infused cigars, what you're looking at is like a cherry, a vanilla, a rum, a bourbon infused, and they sit in it's a humidor. But what happens is that the fumes evaporate and then they leak into the leaf, and then they take on the flavor profile of rum, vanilla, cherry, bourbon, coffee cigars. I'm not a real big fan on the coffee side of things, but
Okay.
all those notes sink into the cigar, and so they give you more of we'll just say an unnatural taste to a natural taste of a tobacco leaf. There's probably a better term to use there, but yeah, when you're using infused cigars, they're sweeter. They're like the candy of the cigar world, and the Maduros are like the steak of the cigar world.
Right. Okay, so we work with Al from Reform Cigars. We sell some of his cigars. And that's the Calvin, the Spurgeon, that line.
Yeah.
And especially, I probably, the cigar I hear the most feedback on is the Spurgeon cigar.
Yeah.
What kind of cigar is that?
So the Spurgeon cigar is there's two. There's one that has a Nicaraguan Puro. It's just purely Nicaraguan tobacco. And the other one has a San Andreas wrapper. They're both Maduros. They're full-bodied, full strength, and they're great for a beginner cigar. They are not what you want to start out with, but they're one. We've sold out of them. If I had one, I would grab one and show it. But you can check it out on 1689's website and just see the labels there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have our own lines. We got a couple of our own cigar lines that we're building out. One is our confessional line. Do you have that there?
Yeah, so this is the London Baptist Confession, because I'm the Baptist of the group, and so this is our test.
89.
Yeah, so this is our test banding. So we are getting these in Boston and foiled. And so the first roll of your cigars, you typically go with your test banding, and just so the market tests them, make sure they're good quality, people like them, and then you build out your more premium looking bands. Here's the Westminster.
That's beautiful. That's Protestant orange.
Yeah, that's compliments of you, Gabe. And then so I had to do some research on this one because we had a friend that referenced the Savoy, and so this is a beautiful green. I think we keep this color over time, but the Savoy is like the Congregational Confession, and so we went with a Habano because it's a lighter confession, and then we went with a Maduro for both the London and the Westminster because they're a little bit heavier of a confession.
That's awesome, Chance. And then we have our Pharisee line, which is our kind of flavor infused line. Yeah. And like you said, that's probably a good place to start if you're a beginner in the cigars. And also, if anybody ever wants to smoke a Pharisee, you can just order our Pharisee line and smoke it.
Yeah. And so this is our prototype line. And prototype just means we're testing the market and see if people like them. And apparently everybody likes these. These are our short filler prototypes. Okay. They're going to be cheaper to purchase, better for like if you have a lot of guys coming over for small groups, Bible study, your Saturday evenings, whatever it is. But these Connecticut's are phenomenal sticks. I have not had a bad review on them. They're great. You can start here. So this is the prototype, great stick. Actually, I just had the prototype Maduro last night. Loved it.
So review with me again, because I'm still trying to get my head straight about. So you got your long filler, and by long filler, when the tobacco leaf is harvested, and then it's cured for 3 years, and then that whole leaf is what eventually, along with some other layers, is what eventually gets wrapped into a cigar.
Yeah. So you have the binder, filler, and wrapper. And so, like you can see on the end of here, this is long filler, and the leaves are going horizontal through it. And then this one is a short filler, and the leaves are not going horizontal through it, and then it actually can flake out. So there's your difference. So this is more
Meaning
packed.
that it's smaller. It's the leftover from, let's say, a premium leaf, because
Yeah.
they'll wrap the cigar and then they'll cut the ends to give
Yeah.
us the look and shape that we want, and then they'll
Yeah.
take that fill, that what is now becomes filler, and put it into another cigar with
Yes.
the outer wrapping on it. Okay.
Yeah,
so-
and then what? Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go.
No, what they've done is they've come up with different blends. So like we're working on this as our proprietary Maduro. And so what they'll do is they'll take the scraps of our Maduro, the scraps of our Habano, and the scraps of our Connecticut, and then they'll take a Connecticut wrapper and they'll wrap it into these short fillers. And so when you're going through, sometimes your short fillers have more flavor than your Maduros do or your Habanos do, because it's when I say more flavor, I mean the flavor changes more. Obviously with your long filler, you're going to have the same flavor over time. Like when you light up the 1689 London, when you light that up, you're going to get that peppery spice at the beginning, and then it kind of mellows out and it gets sweeter at the end, and then you have that punch of the nicotine at the end with the cigar. But with a short filler, you can have like, all right, you have this peppery at the beginning, and then it goes into like a sweet, and then when you have your short fillers, the difference there is you're not going to get as much consistency as you do on your long fillers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so long filler, medium filler, short filler, and then maybe describe a little bit like the construction of a cigar, because apparently you could get an outer leaf from Nicaragua, some filler from DR. There's maybe more of a recipe to a cigar than just maybe one leaf.
Yeah, so we're from Kentucky, so we're used to bourbon mashes. Like you have different mashes, so you have different rye, you have different corn, XYZ you put in there. So it's the same thing with your cigars. So like you can have a San Andreas wrapper, which it's country of origin, so it's coming from Mexico. It's a San Andreas wrapper, and that's what you're using for the wrapper. And then you can have Indonesian binder and filler, or you can have Maduro, Nicaraguan binder and filler. So you're building out your blend, and then also your blend depends on your soil content. So sometimes, like if you have like sometimes people will go down to Mexico and they'll buy cigars in Mexico, and they'll say they're Cubans or they'll say there's something else, and then they'll light them up, and on their tobacco's burning, and it burns brown instead of like a white or a black ash, and it means it has low soil content in it. And so the soil was bad for that tobacco that was there. And so your cigar is like a concoction, like bourbon is. And so you're putting in different fillers, different binders, different wrappers to get different flavors. And that's how that operates.
That's super helpful. And let's talk about pairing real quick, because I love pairing my cigars. And then we'll get into the business model side of things. How do you recommend people pairing cigars? Scotch, wine,
so
Dr. Pepper.
So Dr. Pepper goes good with any cigar, and so does root beer.
Incredible.
So if you don't drink, root beer pairs with all your cigars. If you're going to drink, or if you're going to smoke a darker cigar, you're going to be looking at more of that bourbon that burns in the back of your throat, less corn, more rye. If you're going for your Habano, you're looking for more of that malty taste with your Habanos. And then with the Connecticut's, I would just say a light beer or coffee. A lot of people smoke Connecticut's in the morning with their coffee. And so and that's my flavor profile. Obviously that can change with others, and you can go read many reviews online, and people always have different opinions.
My favorite Scotch to have with a cigar is actually Talisker.
Okay.
Talisker, I remember we had a Scottish pastor on our show 5 years ago, something like that, on Cross Politic. And at the end of the show, I was just kind of jokingly said, "What is your favorite Scotch, and why is it Belvini?" Belvini has been one of my favorites for a long time. There's a lot of nostalgia to it for me. I've been drinking that since 2001 or something, when it was cheap, but it was still good. It was just a lot cheaper. 21 year was like $85 a bottle back in 2001. Now it's $250. So
Wow.
I don't really drink that anymore. But I was joking and I said, what's your favorite Scotch and why is it Talisker? And he said, no, I said, excuse me, correct myself. What's your favorite Scotch and why is it Belvini? And he said that's a California Scotch, meaning that Scotch is kind of, for the generic palate. It makes everybody, it satisfies everybody. And he said, what you want is Talisker. So I'd never heard of Talisker before, never had Talisker. So I went and bought a bottle. But man, it just really pairs well with the cigar. It's the right kind of smoky, the right kind of woody, and it doesn't dominate the cigar. It pairs very well with it. So that's my favorite Scotch. Dr. Pepper and cigars. The way I like to do Dr. Pepper and cigars, Dr. Pepper's it'll blow your mind on how well it pairs with cigars. I've never had root beer, but with cigars, but Dr. Pepper's always been my thing. I was back in Texas when I think I was 17 or whatever. My friend said, "Yeah, you should have a Dr. Pepper with your cigar. I think you like it." And so I did it, and it was like, wow. And the way I like Dr. Pepper and cigars, get a big cup of ice. I mean, like load that cup up with ice and pour Dr. Pepper over it, so it's nice, cold, fizzy, and it pairs really amazingly with cigars. That was back in 1997 or something, 96, whatever. And I've been preaching that Dr. Pepper cigar pairing since then to my friends, and I've never had a friend come back and say he didn't like it.
Yeah.
My buddy went to a cigar lounge in Phoenix, Arizona last year, 2 years ago, and he went in and there was free Dr. Pepper on tap at the cigar lounge. And he went to the cigar owner there and said, "Why do you do free Dr. Pepper?" And he's like, "Because if anybody knows the pairing between cigar and Dr. Pepper, they deserve a free Dr. Pepper." And so that's what he did at Cigar Lounge, which I thought was pretty fun and interesting.
Yeah, no, it's great. You have to try Vanilla L. Is great too, pairing with your cigars, and then definitely the root beer.
Yeah,
so.
Interesting. I haven't heard of the root beer. So let's talk the business model here, because this really is. We've talked about this before, but there's kind of three major aspects to this. There's the legal side, there's the inventory, the supply side, and then there's the branding, marketing side. That's really what this play is.
Yeah.
The legal side, it's kind of. We're kind of functioning a little bit within a monopoly. You either got to have a state that has less restrictions, or you got to, or whatever state you're in where the business is located on. You got to, have all this paperwork and licensing and so forth, to be able to, even sell a cigar.
Yeah.
And actually, we haven't really talked about this very much, but we talked about it a little bit. But the PCA, the Premium Cigar Association, they just won a major case in 2023 last year, where it officially created distinction between cigars and cigarettes.
Yeah.
And so cigars are even less regulated now than, because they're, they aren't associated with all the chemicals, and, it doesn't have the same smoking habits, the same unhealthy connection that cigarettes have with heart, lungs, and so forth. I don't know, maybe it's just kind of, so cigars are actually in an interesting situation because they don't fall under the cigarette legislation or cigarette legal code or whatever anymore, but they're still some states are stricter than others. Some states you have to have a license. Some states you have taxes, high taxes per cigar, all that stuff. You just want to talk about kind of legal side real quick?
Yeah, so it just depends on your state, and so if you're going to look to start a cigar line, or if you're going to look to start a cigar lounge, you're going to have to just talk to your attorney and your local. So that's a big thing. I think the biggest thing is your local township. If they don't want a cigar lounge, they typically just veto it, and there's a lot of issues there. But when it comes to the federal, and when it comes to the state, as long as you apply for your distributing licensing, you'll be fine. Some states require that, some states don't. In some states, as a retailer, and you're just selling as a third party, like the cigars hit the fulfillment center, and then they're labeled, and then you buy them from an individual. All you have to do is collect your retail sales. And so there are different legalities in every state. So the best thing to do if you're looking to get into this industry is to contact an attorney, and then also get with a legal team, because different states are different. And I think that's, I mean, we should abolish the ATF,
we're all for that. So so the legal side, kind of look at your state laws, what's going on, talk to a lawyer, that kind of thing. All right, on the inventory side of things,
so the inventory side of things is a nightmare for the startup. If you don't know the pipelines, if you don't know where you're getting your cigars, if you don't know what we've learned, if you don't know directly from factory, which that's where we're at now with the DR and with Nicaragua, is straight from factory. If you don't have that connection, people are going to hornswoggle you. They're going to take advantage of you. They're going to charge you for things that you could just go source yourself and purchase at a lot lower price points. And then also you have the biggest thing for us is we bottleneck almost each month, because we have been going up at a good upward pattern. So we sell out of the confessional line, or we sell out of the reformed line, or the Pharisee line. And then it's always waiting on hearing from that supplier. And so in the cigar world, you have to be 3 to 4 months ahead in your inventory to even make it. And so that's the hard, I think in this business model, the inventory is the hardest place to be with us.
Right. And then you got in the inventory world, you got Shoreline distributors, and then you got the DR in Nicaragua. And so you have layers of relationships, and then also foreign relationships and levels of communication problems, honesty, dishonesty, all that stuff. We went down to Florida. Me and Chance went down to Florida last week to kind of meet face to face, to know these people, to see them, because I mean, we were both sensing like, okay, who's telling the truth, who's not in this whole world. Florida was a lot of fun. I flew into Tampa. You guys met me there, and we ended up going to the cigar lounge that was a former church. Beautiful, tall ceiling. I mean, it's brick church building that a cigar lounge had bought and taken over. And I guess it was probably I probably prefer the cigar lounge in there than the former church that was in there.
Well, but
so we have the supply. The working through the supply stuff is really difficult, especially at the beginning. Especially, I mean, now we've been fortunate to find some good, trustworthy relationships. And there's a guy who's been in the cigar industry for 12 years, has been super generous and giving us his knowledge, talking us through it, helping us. And I don't know, any comments about that?
Yeah. Gabby Caffey, he actually fought against the FDA in 2023 as the doctor on the panel. A great guy. And then I think in the cigar world, the cigar industry, you learn that everybody's out for each other. Like every small cigar boutique company, there's probably people out there that will stab you in the back. But what we've learned and what I've learned is that the cigar industry still has honesty and integrity when it comes to the business face to face, like the Newmans, Caffey, those guys, they're going to be honest. But the people who are playing that middleman or that fourth man, those are the dishonest folks. They're out for the buck, so they're going to tell you whatever you need to hear. And then when you receive your cigar shipment, there's beetles in your cigar or something. That's the hard thing, is getting rid of those third and fourth men and just going direct to the source. And then once you get direct to the source, it fixes that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you got the legal side, you got the supply side, sorting through relationships, finding the right people, finding the trustworthy side of things. And then you have the marketing side, the branding, the website. We aren't a brick and mortar right now, although we actually have a warehouse now in the border of Tennessee. You're in it. So we just got a brick and mortar this last week, and we have plans for maybe doing some sort of custom membership with a lounge side of it, but it's really our warehouse right now. So the marketing side, so it depends if you're a lounge or marketing, you're thinking one way, but we're basically right now an online store.
Yeah, we're an e-commerce cigar shop, right?
Online cigar shop. You know, so to me, it's a quality. So are your cigars quality, and it's a branding thing.
Yeah.
You got good cigars, and is your branding connecting with the world?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I would classify cigars in this 4 categories. You have your C grade tobacco, you have your B grade tobacco, and your C grade and your B grade tobacco are typically your snuff and your cigarettes. That's the quality that you're getting. And then you have your A grade tobacco. This is where it gets tricky, because an A grade tobacco stick is much different than an A++ stick. And you know that, you've seen it. We've been in warehouses where they say, hey, this is A grade, and then they give you an A++, and you're like, oh my goodness, I never want to touch that A grade again. And so when it's coming to your cigars, you're looking at presentation, and then you're also looking at, I can show here on there, the wrapper. This is art. The ones who are rolling these, and then you're looking for veins. You're looking for, like, these are sun blemishes here, which actually are tasty. They make the cigar taste more, but you don't see anything super protruding out of the cigar. It's symmetrical, and then there's, at the end of it, there's 3 caps here. So there's 1, 2, 3, just in case you cut too far, your whole cigar is not going to roll apart. And so this would describe quality. Now, if you're going into your A grade tobacco, there would be 1 cap here. There would be bumps all over this. And typically at the end, why you put these on here at the end is to protect the cigar, protect its foot. But at the end, it's splitting, or there's not really good construction. And so you can tell a lot about a cigar just by first glance. And many cigar lounges, they don't want you to pick up the cigars, so you have to use your eyes. And so that's the first thing I look at, is like, all right, is it splitting at the end? Is there a lot of veins in the cigar? Does this look like it's been hand rolled, or does it look like it's been machine rolled? Because that's another issue that you can run into. People say they're hand rolled when they're machine rolled cigars. And so you have the major difference between A grade and A++ is quality, taste, and visual and construction. And I think everybody who smokes regularly knows, like, hey, I'm going to try this new brand, and you get it, and it's just a flat. You know they're not using high quality tobacco.
Yeah, that's helpful. And then so in our online branding world, our company 1689 Cigars. So we're kind of, I think we're one of the only. I think there's another Christian cigar company out there, but there's only I would say us, and is it
it's Southern Draw.
Southern Draw. Yeah.
Robert, and then you have Holy Smokes as well. I'm not familiar with Holy Smokes. I have no idea what their industry is. I've talked to Robert a little bit, so I do know Southern Draw. And on their bands, you have Sole Della Gloria, and then you just have a lot of his cigars are more geared towards like his family, and they're like the Rose of Sharon is named after his wife. And so you do have some Christian influence in the cigar world, but predominantly that influence is going to be leaning more Catholic in Christendom. So you have some influence, but then right now in the market, like I'll go ahead and I can share this. We're working on our next line is going to be the 5 Solas, and it's going to be this ornate one. It's going to come in a nice box, and there's only going to be X amount, and then we might move into producing that long term if everybody likes it. And so like we're going to really heavily lean into that for 1689. There's another one I haven't talked to Gabe about yet, so I'm not going to let that launch on here. But there is a lot that you can do in this world, and there's actually, I think there's integrity in the business owners, the higher brands. The biggest area where there's not integrity is definitely in the inventory side of things. And so I think you can be a great witness. I've sat down with some of the major players and been able to share the gospel, and they're not antagonistic to it.
Right.
And so that is ultimately, staying on mission. We want to supply good funding for our families. We want to love our neighbors, and we want to let them know that we're Christians, not just by word, but by deed, producing good quality tobacco, good quality cigars, good customer service, loving our neighbors, and all that we do.
That's helpful. Now we can talk probably just a little bit about this, but so we have the online side, and part of one of our goals. So we basically the three areas that we're going to focus on is, of course, the online cigars, and then we want to get into lounges, which is a whole other business model or a whole other sales process. But getting the lounges, serve lounges, nice to have. Someone in a pagan cigar lounge pull up, 6089, and they're like, "What's that?" And then they Google the confession and become a Christian. Be fantastic. And then we also are working with other brands to build a cigar brand for them, because let's say we're talking with I don't know, we'll cross politic. We'll be doing this cross politic eventually. It's not our we want to focus on other things, but let's say cross politic, we don't want to work to get a cigar license. We don't want to have to worry about paying sales tax or we don't want to
have 10,000 cigars sitting in your house.
And deal with packaging and shipping and all that stuff. So one of the things we see as a value to the market is working with brands like Cross Politic and say, "Hey, you want your Waterboy Knox and Pastor Toby cigar? We'll handle all the shipping. We'll pay all the sales tax. We have to, because Cross Politic couldn't legally sell a cigar to the market through our own website unless we started a cigar company and went through all the legality of formulating it. So being able to work with, there's a lot of value for, let's say, Cross Politic being able to work with 1689 Cigars, is because we could use 1689 to handle all our branding, to handle our drop shipping, to handle all our relationships with the suppliers and all that stuff. And then we get a nice branded cigar as part of Cross Politic. And so there's a real cool play in 1689 being able to work with other brands to be able to build out their own cigar line. And that company like Cross Politic doesn't have to go through all the legality to take care of it, to build it out and everything.
Yeah, and we become the drop shipping of your cigars. That's basically what it is. We want to become the Amazon of cigar world for the Christian cigar
brands,
world,
for other brands, stuff like that. Yeah,
for brands, and that does, like, I'm sitting here right now. We've banded probably 300 cigars, and it's taken ages. and I know typically, especially podcast hosts or influencers, you don't want to be doing that all day. And so we build a lot of value by being able to store, house, ship, customer service, build out websites, build out domains, do everything that you need.
And all the legality and the taxes for it.
Yeah. And then knowing that we source the best tobacco. Like, every one of our cigars are of that A++ quality. We're not playing down so we get lower grade tobacco so we can make a higher profit. We would rather lose a little bit of that money and have a better stick than to have poor tobacco.
Yeah. Chance, thank you so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun. It's fun to actually talk one of my own companies. So 1689cigars.com. And you guys can, of course, we'd love you to buy our smokes and give us any feedback too. And if you actually have a brand that wants to work with us, reach out to Chance. What's a good email address? 1689cigars@gmail.com.
1689cigarsllc@gmail.com.
1689cigarsllc@gmail.com. Reach out to us. Love to work with your brand too. Help you guys roll out a cigar. So thank you for coming on, Business Makers, buddy.
All right. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Well, everybody, we'll be back not next week. Next week, we got a film shoot I got to be working on with the crew. So we won't be doing Business Makers next Friday, but we'll be back in the studio 2 weeks from now. And make sure you download our app, share these shows. We can't grow without your share. So make sure you share your shows, share it to your business friends. Fun talk about cigars. And make sure you download our app, and we'll see you hopefully in October at our prodigalamerica.com conference. Thank you for tuning in to Business Makers.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke.
When I grow up,
I want to be hired based on what I look like,
I want to be judged
by my political beliefs.
I want to be a conformist
When I grow up, I want to be offended
By my coworkers and walk around the office on eggshells. When I grow up, I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free.
In modern fitness culture, temporary aesthetic beauty often comes at the expense of the body, soul, and true long-term vitality. At Mount Athos Performance, we believe in more than just looking good. We're on a mission to fuel a holistic lifestyle of health, a lifestyle that prepares you for every moment, from work to recreation. Built on purity, sustainability, and the pursuit of excellence, our products support functional fitness for everyday resilience and longevity. Welcome to Mount Athos Performance.